Hello everyone and welcome to Medicated Housewife DIY, where crafting and mental health come together. My name is Sarah. Today's video is a Mackenzie Childs inspired Christmas DIY. We are making these gorgeous Mackenzie Childs inspired tabletop mini trees using some unusual supplies from Dollar Tree and Amazon. They're beautiful, high-end decor DIYs that you're gonna love so much, so stick around. And let's go make some stuff and jump right into this. In today's video, we are making two gorgeous Mackenzie Childs inspired high-end looking mini Christmas trees. For the first tree, I got my inspiration from the beautiful fall colors of this Mackenzie Childs pumpkin. For this first DIY inspired mini Christmas tree, I'm using an 8-inch white foam cone with a flat top that I already had from last year. If you can't find one similar in Dollar Tree or elsewhere, you can also use the taller, pointier cones and just trim the pointy top off, because that will work too, but I'll link some cones in the description below. We are also using these foam hair curler rollers. I bought the large 9-inch purple ones on Amazon, and I'll link them below, but we are also using smaller green ones that are from Dollar Tree on the second tree. But this first tree is all the 9-inch purple ones. If you cut the little white button off either side of the foam roller and gently pull the wire out from the middle, you can then cut them completely in half. Just being careful to keep your scissors straight so you can keep the cuts straight. This is going to give us 2 full pieces from each roller. One side will be flat on each piece for gluing, and the other side will be raised and rounded to help with our design. And just a note here, you're making 2 cuts on each of the rollers so that you cut it completely in half and make 2 pieces out of one. I'm taking one of the 2 pieces of foam curler, and I'm using Gorilla hot glue and gently gluing the piece down, wrapped diagonally around the cone. I'm going to follow the same line for each additional hair roller until the entire cone is covered in rollers. The thing with hot glue and these foam things is to let your glue cool off a little before trying to glue something else foam to it. Otherwise, if you're not a little patient with it, you could just melt a hole right into the foam, and nobody wants that to happen. I really like working with these hair curlers. I used the same hair rollers to make my decorative chain that was made of twigs, and I'll link that video below in the description. So if you want to check that out, it was really kind of cool. And at this point, it kind of looks a little like soft serve, like a soft serve ice cream cone or something like that, which is kind of the look that we're going for, at least at this point. When we've almost covered the entire cone, you will find that you run out of space a little and you can't fit a whole hair roller from top to bottom. You may have to cut some in half or even smaller to finish wrapping them and to make sure the cone is covered. Those areas of the cone might look a little strange, but that's okay. We are going to refer to that area affectionately as the back of the project. You know what I'm talking about. It's the side that's going to face the wall. Come on, we all have them. It's a DIY project. It's not perfect, but it is made with love. Once the cone is covered, the first order of business is to get it primed with paint. And I'm using Waverly white chalk paint. I'm going to generously coat the entire cone because those curling rods are a very dark purple. And I want everything to start out a nice uniform white before attempting to paint them other colors. Once the white primer is dry, I took a pencil and I hand drew some lines between the creases that are in between the hair rollers, because I want a thinner black line in the creases in between each of my colors. So I'm going to take my Apple Barrel black gloss paint and as carefully as I can just paint a medium-ish thin line between all the rollers. I will link in the description box below all the paint colors that I use in this video in case you miss it while you're watching this. The first color stripe that we're painting is orange. Now the only orange paint I had was this folk art vivid orange, and I wanted more of a burnt orange color. So I read that a drop or two of a blue paint in the orange would make it a little darker and browner, which it definitely did. I used an apple barrel bright blue because that's what I had. Also, a note for this project is that I had mostly matte paints and the project really needs a glossy finish. So I simply used the paints that I had, both matte and glossy, and used a very glossy glaze over everything at the end to make it all really shiny. So I mixed the paint color and I saved it in one of those little condiment cups that you get at Dollar Tree so that I could do multiple coats without the extra paint drying out. Using these little cups for mixed colors is like my new favorite thing. That's just a helpful hint from me. Oh, and I didn't mention it before, but please disregard that mini chalkboard sign sticking up from my cone. It's only there for me to hold on to the cone without messing up the paint. It is not at all a design element here, so you could use a skewer for this. It just so happened to be the first thing I grabbed to stab into the top of my foam cone. The second color we are doing after the orange stripe is a yellow. And again, the only yellow that I had was this folk art multi-surface in moon yellow, and it's pretty matte. But I wanted it to be less bright, more like a muted gold and more fall-like. So I added some of the orange paint that I was using, just a drop or two. And even though I know the yellow still looks pretty bright on camera, in real life, it's more of a gold than a yellow. Also, side note, I did at least 3 coats of all my colors, and in some cases I did 4 because I really wanted the colors to be like super rich and saturated. The third color stripe is a red. What I had was an apple barrel matte in the color flag red, but what I wanted was a richer, darker red. More of like a brick meets a maroon, somewhere in that family. So I added a couple of drops of black to the red and I got a little deeper, and I used that to paint the third color stripe. So my 3 colors of stripes are done along with my black stripes in between, and I needed something to cover the top and to neaten it up there because it was kind of looking a mess. I couldn't figure out what to use, and then in my hoarder's basement, the hoarder being me, at least with craft supplies anyway, I found this bag of tiny little ring gift boxes that I had kept for whatever reason, but I am so glad I did because they're made out of this super hard cardboard. They were in assorted shapes, but I found a nice round one, and the top of the round gift box fit perfectly over the top of my cone. I painted the box top in a glossy black paint, and I decided to use one of my wooden knobs that I had. You've seen me use them in other projects. I'll link them in the description box below. I painted the top part of the knob in a glossy black also, and I will paint the bottom band of the knob in the matching red from my stripes. Now, because this is a DIY project that's not perfect, but again, made with love, the bottom of our cone tree is a little wonky. Even though we trimmed the hair rollers after gluing them, there are still some uneven or cracked spots. So I figured let's just embellish the bottom even more, because when in doubt, just do more, add more stuff, right? I have these wood half rounds that I used in my last tabletop tree video, which I'll link below in the description box if you haven't seen it already, and I'll link the half rounds too. They're just plain wood half rounds, and I wanted to paint them black and gloss them afterwards. So I cut 2 pieces of packing tape and stuck the half rounds onto the packing tape to make them easier to paint and move while they're drying. The rounds are going to be painted 2 coats of the gloss black paint. While all my embellishments are drying, I coat the entire cone tree with this Decor triple thick gloss glaze. I totally love this stuff. It makes everything look almost glass-like, which is exactly what I'm going for here. I want the tree to be shiny and porcelain-like. I'll link the Decor gloss glaze in the description box below. You could also use the gloss Mod Podge for this part, but I was going for super glossy, so I use this stuff. In general, when you use it, you are better off doing light coats multiple times rather than a really thick coat all at once, because you need to give this at least 24 hours to fully dry, and if it's on there too thick, it may not dry totally clear. After this was done, I went ahead and I glossed the wood half rounds and the gift box top and wood knob also, so that it would all have a full 24 hours to dry. After all the gloss is dried, I'm going to glue my half rounds around the bottom of my cone using my Star Bond super glue, which I will link below. The Star Bond only takes about 30 seconds to set up and stick, which is great, but just know that using this glue on this project is a commitment, because I'll tell you this, there is no moving these half rounds after you've applied the glue. If you try and lift them up off of the tree, you will rip off every single layer of paint off the cone, along with a little bit of foam too. So if you don't like the placement after the fact, just make it work. It's a DIY. It's not going to be perfect. I also used the Star Bond to glue the gift box top to the top of my tree and to glue the wooden knob in the middle of the box top, kind of like a tree topper. And this is how the first of my Mackenzie Childs inspired mini Christmas trees turned out. The fall colors on this tree are spot on for the Mackenzie Childs fall pumpkin. I just wish the video could do justice to these colors. They're very fall and very deep and rich. And the gloss finish really makes the tree pop. I think the knob on top is a very elegant touch. And all in all, I think anyone would love this mini tree on their holiday table. It's a very high-end DIY that you can definitely be proud of. The color scheme was out of my usual wheelhouse, but I was pleasantly surprised as to how much I really liked it. I just love looking at it. For my second DIY mini Christmas tree, these are the inspo pieces from Mackenzie Childs that are inspiring this second Christmas tree. The black and white stripes, the gold, the splash of red, that's what this DIY is all about. To begin this tree, we are using a white foam cone like the first tree and the same purple hair rollers, but in addition, we are using these smaller green hair rollers from Dollar Tree. You cut the small green curling rods the same way as the purple ones. Remove the button on the side, slide the wire out, and use a small scissors to cut the top and bottom in a straight line. Each green curling rod will give us 2 pieces to work with, each with a flat side for gluing and a rounded side for our design. Much like the first tree, we are also using hot glue to glue our curling rods around the tree on a diagonal, but this time we are gluing the purple and then the small green ones next to it, over and over in a pattern. Big, small, you get the picture. You must be really careful with the hot glue and these Dollar Tree foam rollers. Give the glue a minute to cool a little before attaching your green rollers. Otherwise, the green rollers will immediately melt into your fingers. Ask me how I know. Just be careful. Also, the green rollers are not long enough to go all the way around the cone, so you will need to use 2 of the cut sides to reach around the whole tree. So just like the first tree, we gave this one a good coat of Waverly white chalk paint to prime the tree and make it a uniform white, and then we allowed it to dry. Then I broke out my air dry clay and the leaf mold that I got on Amazon, which I will link below. This is the same mold I used to make the maple leaves on my Mackenzie Childs inspired fall pumpkin video, which I will link in the description below if you haven't seen it already. But this time we are not using the maple leaves, we are using a different leaf on that mold. The easiest way to do this is to brush a little cornstarch on your mold and push the clay into it. Then gently peeling back the mold until the clay leaf falls out. I made about 10 of these leaves and I dried them on a cup that was about the same diameter as my tree because I wanted them to dry curved, so it would be easier to apply them to the tree after they dried. I wasn't sure exactly how many leaves I needed, but I made enough extras just in case. I always forget how much I love working with clay until I break out my clay. I really should do more DIYs with clay. It's so easy to use and you're able to achieve amazing results with it. Let me know in the comments what kind of DIYs you'd like to see me try out using clay. I'm interested to hear about what you guys want to see, so let me know. Now I'm painting the smaller green Dollar Tree rollers a glossy black. And then I paint the larger rollers next to that one a glossy white. And I'll repeat that all around the tree. And I'll do that at least 3 coats of paint in both colors and allow it to dry. I should also mention that I glued an additional larger foam roller around the top of this tree in an effort to cover up the top edge, which was a little messy looking with all the different sized foam rollers and glue up there. I also painted this roller around the top in glossy black. Next, I painted the dried clay leaves with 2 coats of this folk art treasure gold, which I'll link below, as well as painting another wooden knob that I had in the same gold. I did 2 coats of this on everything, and then I allowed it to dry. I had another box top from my little mini ring gift boxes that I found in my hoard in the basement, and I glued that on top of the tree after I had painted it with a glossy black. I got this gold metallic faux leather cording on Amazon. I'll link it below, and I cut it into pieces long enough to fit in between each crease, between each of the white and black stripes. I used Starbond glue to glue the cording to the tree, and keep in mind what I said about this glue being a commitment. If you try and lift something up after you glue it with the Starbond, you will also lift all your paint and a little of the foam too. So once you commit, that is a lifelong commitment. Keep it in mind. I got out my Waverly antique wax and dry brushed it onto the edges of my leaves, and also into the indentations within the leaf design to give it some depth. I love how easy this stuff is to use. If you use too much, you just wipe it off with a paper towel. Also, it dries really quickly. And then I put the leaves aside to dry. Off camera, because I somehow lost the footage, I used the Decor Art Triple Thick Gloss on the tree itself. I also used the triple thick gloss on the wooden knob I had painted gold, and a large wooden bead that I had in my stash that I had painted bright red with Dollar Tree acrylic paint. And then I used it on all of my gold leaves, and I set that all out to dry for a full 24 hours. After everything is dry, I start gluing the leaves along the bottom edge of the tree. I wasn't sure where I was placing them exactly, but I made it up as I went along. And we're using the Starbond again, so that means if I place a leaf somewhere and I don't like it, it's staying there anyway, and I will just work around it. This is crafting. We improvise when necessary. Now, I just wanted to interject for a second here and point out these wonky black, white, and gold lines on this part of the tree. Again, it's not perfect, and this part of the tree is what will from now on be known as the back of the tree. Nobody but you and the wall will know. Shh, it's our secret. I had these white and also black glossy napkin rings, also from my basement, and I thought they'd work perfectly as risers for my trees. So I glued the napkin ring to the bottom of the tree and glued my big red bead and gold knob to the top. I also last minute decided to use up 2 of those extra leaves I had, and I glued them to the top of the tree just to be extra. And this is how my second Mackenzie Childs inspired mini Christmas tree turned out. I think this is the most elegant tree of them all. I'm amazed how much I like it. It's kind of formal, like it should be wearing a top hat and tails or something. This is a gorgeous and elegant addition to your holiday, either as a centerpiece or on your mantle. Plus, it would make a really great gift for a friend or a loved one. I love it. Just a funny tidbit, my daughter insists that this tree looks like a barbershop pole. Just for fun, let me know in the comments what this elegant tree reminds you of. Barbershop pole is taken, and let's keep it clean. I'd love to hear from you guys as to what you think. Thank you for watching this Medicated Housewife DIY video, and if you enjoyed it, please hit the like and subscribe buttons. Until next time, I'm the Medicated Housewife, and crafting is my medication.